close to 13 years, professional photographers consider this as the new sheriff in town. This is the 14-24 2.8G for f-mount. Originally, this lens cost around 3,000 Canadian. Recently, I found this for a great deal on Facebook Marketplace for only $550. I figured it'd be great to test and compare this with my 24-120 f4Z lens at the 24 range to see exactly how well this stacks up. A lot of you are just not interested at all in f-mount glass, but I'm here to show you today that it is a lot better than most of you think. In order to strengthen my point about people not caring about this f-mount glass anymore, I was on Reddit recently where I recommended someone buy this 14-24 because they were looking for a real estate lens for cheap. After recommending it, someone said that this lens was basically ancient and you're better off shooting with a Coke bottle cap. Over the years, optics haven't changed a whole lot. I do agree that the Z-mount glass is much better, especially in the corners, and it is overall quite a bit sharper, but there are a lot more things to image quality than just overall sharpness, and this lens still has great sharpness considering its age. Let's get into it. There's something I've noticed when looking on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, and that is that this f-mount glass usually goes for a lot cheaper than the EF counterparts. Even if it's the exact same lens, the f-mount lenses are often much, much cheaper. I've been using the Nikon Z mount for now over a year, and I figured after all this time, it was time to make the switch and sell off all my EF glass and buy the f-mount counterpart. Once I moved over to make the switch to buy some f-mount glass, I was really happy to finally start using this FTZ2 adapter, which has weather sealing and pretty much guaranteed support for all the f-mount glass, especially made by Nikon, because you never know when you update your camera whether or not your adapter will be supported in the next update or not. Now you're probably asking, why did I pick this 14-24 over something like the 14-30? The 14-30 f4Z lens is a really great lens that I want to buy in the future, but I'm looking to pay under around 1,000 Canadian. Buying this for only $550, I can probably make at least $100 off this, and this is a good lens in the meantime while I sell my 16-35 f4 Canon EF lens. Okay, let's talk about what you're actually getting with this lens. Made in Japan during Nikon's golden era of manufacturing. The moment you pick this up, you understand why it commanded premium prices for over a decade. The zoom ring is dampened perfectly, smooth and precise, with just enough resistance that it won't zoom creep when pointed down. The focus ring is wide and rubberized and perfectly dampened. Manual focus on this is actually enjoyable. This lens has excellent weather sealing. A lot of people have mentioned using this countless times in terrible conditions. This has been a go-to for professionals for years because of this. Yes, this lens is heavy at around 2.2 pounds and around 3 pounds on my camera in combined weight. Okay, so 2.2 pounds, a little heavy for a lens, right? But let's just put that into perspective. This same dumbbell is around 2 pounds as well. When you look at things like that, it makes you a little embarrassed to think that you're not able to carry around a small dumbbell like this throughout the day. So is it really going to be that bad? I think you'll manage. One of the things that really helped the overall optical quality of this lens was just how much glass was inside it. This bulbous front element, while not being all that convenient, provided great image quality just based on how much glass was in this. Originally, because of this front element and built-in lens hood that is non-removable, you were not able to add in any sort of filters to be used over top of it. But through time, people ended up manufacturing several different filter holders that worked on the front of this. And also on Nikon Z cameras, you can actually add a filter that clips in over top of the sensor currently. If any of you have used one of those clip-in filters for the Nikon Z sensor, please let me know. I'm really interested to hear how well they perform. Because of this lens having such a bulbous front element design, it is recommended whenever you're transporting it to use this cap. It's really not too hard to slip on and off when you need to take a photo. And it is quite large, so it really is sort of annoying. If it's the summertime and you're not wearing a jacket, it can definitely be a bit of a pain in the butt in that sense. Okay, let's get into image quality. Is it any good? Let's check that out right now. Let's do some comparisons. Looking at this first image here, this was shot at f8. at 14 millimeters, and this lens is actually quite sharp. It's pretty surprising that people are so ignorant to say that this is as bad as shooting out of a bottle cap. Certainly doesn't look like it. Looking at this next shot here at 22 millimeters and 2.8, and this is really quite sharp at this focal length. Let's do some zooming in here. Look at all the detail. It's probably almost a little bit too sharp actually, and the background blur is really great. Let's go on to the next. This is at 2.8 once more. Excellent sharpness, and the color rendering in this is just beautiful. This was shot at f8, 14 millimeters, and look at the sharpness here in the corner, the middle of the frame. Quite decent considering the crop. I did find some color fringing in here, and if you just adjust the settings as I have them here on this right side, you'll be able to remove it just like that. Looking at this image here, it looks a little bit out of focus, but I believe the focus point was here rather, so that's why it appears that way. Here is another shot. I'll show you what it looks like with the profile corrections turned off. And honestly, not too bad at 14 millimeters. It's actually quite a minor correction, and this is one of the benefits of having that bulbous front element on it. The color rendition is super nice, and with it being fall right now, there's no better time than now to go out and use a lens like this. Back at 24 millimeters, f8, sharpness in the corners is really nice. Let's do a bit of an aggressive zoom here. All in all, pretty good detail. This shot at 21 millimeters, f2.8. The background looks really nice and smooth. Nothing wrong at all with that. Quite sharp. Now again at 24 millimeters at f2.8, and it actually makes for pretty good portrait lens. The out of focus backgrounds are nice, and you can get pretty good blur out of this lens actually. With the 14 millimeters, you can use perspective distortion to distort the image a bit and create these kind of odd looking shots, but really up to you whether or not you like that sort of style. Now in the corners, there is a bit of profile correcting that it needs to be done. We're going to crank that up now and brighten up the corners, and it seems like it removes most of it. Okay, that's enough of the image quality comparisons from the 14 to 24 2.8. Let's look at the 24 to 120 and let's see how well this older f-mount lens compares to a modern z-mount lens. We're going to do most of the comparisons at 24 millimeters where they have an overlap. So let's see exactly how well this performs. Let's compare the 14 to 24 on the left hand side to the 24 to 120, both at 24 millimeters and f4. Looking at the two images side by side, they look actually very similar. The color difference is not all that major. I think I do like the colors on the newer lens a little bit more, but there's not a major difference. Let's do some zooming in on the corners. The newer lens is quite a bit sharper in the corners, which is to be expected. But look at this. Look at all the color fringing in the tree line, something that we didn't see on the 14 to 24 2.8G. Looking at the center of the image, yes, this newer lens is quite a bit sharper, but there's not that much of a difference, honestly. I'm not really noticing a ton of difference, and I do notice quite a bit more color fringing as well in the shot, which is pretty interesting. At f8 on both lenses, let's do some zooming in to see how well this resolves at f8. And yeah, the 24 to 120 is the much sharper lens in the corners. Now on to f11. I'm not sure if I missed focus or something on the last shot, but it looks much cleaner in the corners. I must have missed focus because this is a much more comparable shot at f11 with this 14 to 24 doing really well. Still a little bit of color fringing as well on this Z lens. Let's look over here on this side, do a bit of zooming in there. much more comparable. I wasn't really happy with the comparison at f8 of the last image, so let's look at this one to see if possibly it was user error. Zooming in on these two images, it looks actually like this 14 to 24 is a little bit sharper than the 24 to 120. Let's go over now to the corner here. Look at the color fringing on this Z lens. We're in DaVinci Resolve now. We're going to do a comparison between these lenses for video. First lens up to bat is, let me know, what do you guys think? This is the second lens. Let's go back. First lens here. Now second lens. I'll give you guys a hint. The first lens is the older one. Okay, so it's the 14 to 24. Now let's look at this 14 to 24 and see exactly how it looks when zooming in on it, focused at infinity. You're going to see some of the weird autofocus pulsing that this lens suffers from. As you can see, there's some very slight pulsing that happens. I would really recommend, if shooting at infinity, to just shoot manually. Let's go on to the next clip here. You can really see the pulsing that this lens exhibits. This lens was the new sheriff in town for quite a while for a reason. This is probably still the go-to for a lot of photographers that claim the D850 hasn't been improved upon, and they're probably not wrong. The industry as a whole wants you to believe the old glass is obsolete, and I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. The value proposition for this lens is insane. A lens that cost around $3,000 down to $550 just a few years later. It really pays to check the local markets for deals like this. This made in Japan lens has a build quality that still beats out a lot of lenses manufactured today. This had a high price tag for a reason, so if you can pick it up for a price that I paid, don't question it, just buy it. I really think that I'll have to forward this video over to the guy on Reddit that thinks that this lens is as good as a Coke cap. I think he may be on a little bit of the Kool-Aid that the marketing team is pouring up at the cookouts. Let me know how this compared with the 24 to 120Z. Did it hold up against that lens? Do you own this, or have you owned this? And what was your reason for selling it or wanting it? Please let me know in the comments. If you're a Nikon shooter, you really should pay attention to F-mount glass. Check on Facebook Marketplace for deals that pop up, and I'm sure you're going to find something great. For example, this 85 1.8G, I paid only $100 for it. I do have a video where I compare this 24 to 120 f4Z to my F-mount primes. And looking at the autofocus comparison in that video, there was really not a major difference in autofocus. And that is the one thing a lot of people would be surprised to hear about. A lot of times it's often even snappier, but for video work, it's not as smooth of a transition like you see in this Z glass, where they really have nice transitions between out of focus to in focus backgrounds. Sometimes in life you have to make compromises, and this really wasn't too bad of a compromise that I had to make going to some of this F-mount glass. If you're someone that adds softening filters, grain in post, and you like more of that vintage look, why are you even looking at a lot of this Z-mount glass when there are way more affordable options, sometimes maybe a little bit heavier, but again, think about the little pink dumbbell. You can lift it, right? I think we all can. Affiliate links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.